and welcome to CFC Fan TV. So I'm hoping we've all recovered now from the loss. You know, it is a little bit later on in the week, and I'm sure we're all having a splendid week at work. Listen, I think there's one video to be discussed now, and I know a lot of you get a little bit, I suppose, frustrated with the Eden Hazard news that comes out. But I'm reading a lot of what the pundits have been saying, especially this week, and what's relevant. And some of it I agree with, and others I don't. So pundits are coming out and saying, especially like Graeme Souness and Jamie Redknapp, they're saying they think Chelsea's trophy-winning days are numbered. I don't agree with that statement, but I do agree with the fact that it's going to be very, very hard to replace Hazard. So I've come up with my own little take on it and what I think will happen. But before I get into the video, I'll just read you what they said, because, I mean, you know, let's put it this way. Hazard's contract ends in 2020, so we would have to sell him this summer if we wanted to get any money out of him. Now, for me, if he does want to leave, and if he is going to plan to leave, and he's not going to sign a new contract, which I'm thinking is looking incredibly likely, because I think he wants to win the Champions League, and will he do that with Chelsea in the immediate future? I don't think so, because I think it's going to take, especially now with another transfer ban for another year, I think it's going to take an incredibly long time for us to sort of rebuild and to get those, you know, world-class strikers in, those world-class players that match sort of Eden Hazard's ability. So if we did want to cash in on him, which I think would be crucial if if he wants to leave, if he's saying he is going to go, of course I don't want Eden Hazard to leave, I'd love him to stay at the club forever, but if he does want to leave, it would be crucial that we get some money for him rather than him leaving on free. So I'll just read you what Graeme has said, along with Jamie Redknapp, and you can see if you'd agree. So he has said here, if you are Hazard, you're one of the best players in the world. You're thinking, I'm now arguably at the peak of my career and I want to be winning the big trophies. Will that happen at Chelsea? I don't think so. They look like they will struggle to get into the top four. Chelsea have a big decision to make. Do they want to cash in or let him walk in 15 months? He then said, it's difficult times ahead for Chelsea. I think there's a big sea change in how they see things going forward. I don't think they'll be winning trophies in the immediate future. And then Jamie Redknapp then moved in, who, by the way, I'm really not a fan of. But he says Hazard is key. He went to Chelsea for the Champions League, but if they don't get it this year, then it gives him an excuse to leave. He seems incredibly loyal and obviously loves the club, but he has a real predicament if they don't get into the Champions League, and so do the club, because it's not an opportunity to cash in, but you can't buy anybody to replace him. When they won titles, they had Didier Drogba, one of the great centre-forwards, and they had Diego Costa. I don't think they have that person now. I think the fans have to be patient. They have to try and keep hold of Hazard, but if they can't, I want to see players like Callum Hudson-Odoi given a chance. The fan wants to see young players get a chance. Now listen, I actually think for once he's spoken some half-decent words there. I completely agree. Now listen, this is what I'm saying. If we can't keep hold of Hazard, and I do think he's been incredibly loyal to Chelsea, you know, there's a lot of other big star players that would have thought, oh, no Champions League, I'm going to leave. And he stuck with us, especially in that season when Mourinho left. And, you know, again, he stuck with us this season, not having Champions League football. So I think he's been loyal enough. And I don't think Hazard could ever leave Chelsea and not be one of our greatest players. He always will be. And I think he has, of course, the opportunity to leave Chelsea and end his career at Chelsea, being an absolute Chelsea legend. But I think he's got to look at it himself and say, I mean, if he's talking about the Champions League, I'd say we're a good 5 years away from winning that again with our current squad. As much as I would love to win it, again, you know, like the guy said, you know, we had Didier Drogba and we had Diego Costa and we had, you know, upfront players that would really win us Champions Leagues and Premier League titles, and we don't have that person at the moment, and that is completely correct. And I agree, it would take a long time for us to, I don't know, I suppose rebuild slightly, because I think we have great players now, but I don't think they're managed properly, and I think we're probably 3 players away from having a fantastic team, because I think if you just put the right players in the right place, you know, a few adjustments here and there, then that would be correct. Because I think we've actually got a lot of players that have been at the club for quite a long time now, and they're probably coming to the end of their sort of tether there. I mean, even if you look at the likes of Ivanovic, I mean, he was one of our best players for years and years and years, and then you could see that he just had that 1 or 2 slippery seasons, and then that was sort of his time to go as well. So I think there always comes time for players to move on. It's never going to be the right time for Eden Hazard to leave, but if he wants to leave, and I think he's always said that, you know, he loves Chelsea, but he really wants to play for Real Madrid, I think it's inevitable that he will eventually go. So if he does go, I think the main thing here is if we're talking about not having that person now that can win us titles like the likes of, Drogba and Lampard and Terry and whoever else, then we need to use that money wisely, and it would only be sensible to sell him rather than let him walk, because that to me would just create so many more problems for us. We need to at least be able to salvage something from it. And I think the way we use that money will be crucial in how we go as steps to start winning big trophies again. I don't think we're far and far away from winning trophies like they've said there. I think that's way too far. But yes, at the moment we are going through an incredibly hard time, and Hazard leaving and having a transfer ban and everything, it's sort of all come in one wave, It's sort of like when you have a really bad day, everything happens that goes wrong in that one day, and then things start to sort of even out. So I see the same sort of situation here, and I would like to think that we're sort of slightly ahead of the game, if not preparing ourselves if the worst case scenario comes and Hazard does want to leave, because I think it would be incredibly stupid on the club's part to let it wait out until his contract expires for him to then say, no, I'm leaving. Because most players, if they want to stay and they've only got a year left on their contract, will sign another contract, and if we can't get him to sign another contract this summer, then unfortunately, we're going to have to try and use the money that we get for him extremely wisely. And I suppose nearer the time, when that time comes, we can talk about potential players that we want, because of course we would get a bit of spending money, which would be fantastic. But I think when he goes, I think for years we've built a team around Eden Hazard. I think, keeping hold of Kante for as long as possible and putting him back into his natural position is vital. And I don't want us to be one of those teams, like when Tottenham sold Gareth Bale, they more or less spent that money in the worst way possible. They have bought a few good players since then, especially, Eriksen, although I don't think he's having the greatest time at the moment. I think he's a phenomenal player, and I think they've done really well to get him. But I remember they, sort of bought all these players, a bit like what Fulham had done, really. They spent all that money, they bought all these really good players, didn't really gel together, it wasn't really thought out, and they've really struggled this season. And I don't want that to happen to us. I want us to, if the worst comes to worst, not saying I want Hazard to leave, don't start commenting and saying that I want him to go, because that ain't the case. I'm just reporting on what everybody's saying, and these are facts, guys. This is true. So I want us to really spend that money wisely, and I want us to focus on, like the guy said, finding that one person, finding those 3 or 4 players that are going to make us the club that we are. And of course we want to see the young players come through, and maybe it's sort of blessing in disguise as transfer ban, if you're going to put a positive spin on it in any way possible, that we will bring back some of the younger players and let them feature, because I think that's so crucial. And I think for the first time in Hudson-Odoi we're seeing that, where he is a player that is overachieving for his age, overachieving in terms of where he's at ability-wise, because to break into the Chelsea side at such a young age of 18, I think you've got to be amazing to be attracting the likes of Bayern Munich. You've got to be amazing, so we need to feature him. And Hazard leaving would only mean that he would have to have a first place spot in the team, in my eyes, in every Premier League fixture that we have. And I expect the same treatment of him, other players. If he has a bad game, drop him for one game, bring him back in. But I don't think we're seeing enough of that at the moment from our current players, and some of them seem to get away with it, and he seems to fall short for some reason. So we are a bit back to front at the moment, and I think this Eden Hazard situation, if worse comes to us, we will have to put a positive spin on it. So however that may happen, I think we need to focus on a rebuild. I think we need to focus on getting players in that are really hungry to play for the club and can actually handle the Premier League and Chelsea. I think it's one thing to come to the Premier League, I think it's another thing to come into Chelsea Football Club. The board up until probably this year have been so cutthroat with managers, with players, with anyone. We've seen the likes of Bakayoko be terrible at Chelsea, and they've gone on loan, and they're doing, and or they've moved clubs, and they're going and doing quite well. So I think there's so much pressure on any player that comes to Chelsea, and they need to be able to handle that responsibility. And I think the only player I can remember that really took a while to settle in was Ramirez, and we probably gave him longer than we should have. But then he hit that mark, and he was flying. So again, one of the greatest moments in Barcelona. Great goal there, babes. But I think we need to focus on finding the right players, and for once I will agree with what he said. I find that funny because I'm always really mean about that guy. But there's bits and bobs in there that I think some are a bit hard, and saying that we're not a top club, that's just total rubbish. But yeah, they do make some very valid points in there. So please, guys, comment below. Let me know your thoughts on this situation. Do you think Hazard will leave in the summer? And if he does leave, please let me know the players that you would like to see feature in the team. Please let me know who you would possibly like to replace, because we will get a little bit of money. So, and that's always good to hear. We won't be able to spend it immediately, but it would be good to use that money wisely and to start having a strong plan in place. So comment below, let me know your thoughts, and of course, as always, please subscribe to my channel.